I know how hard it is to start a game with all the millions of options, so this is the second video in the two-part series on finally clicking that dreaded start game button. In the first one, I talked about the differences between the base game and Spaced Out, all the start options, world traits and settings. You can find it here. In this one, I won't talk about Spaced Out. It's really a different kind of DLC that I think everyone should own, and all the commentary I can provide on it is really better suited for the video where I explain all the settings. Anyhow, every DLC that is not Spaced Out can be played in both base game and Spaced Out. Once you buy them, all their content will be available to you even if you don't play on their dedicated asteroids. So if you don't want to, for example, see Rexes in your printing pod or have access to smokers and smoked fish, you'll have to disable the DLCs in Steam interface as they cannot be disabled in-game like Spaced Out. There's currently 3 of them, and they add some or all of the following: extra asteroids and biomes associated with them, story traits only for those extra asteroids, extra buildings, critters and materials, new mechanics, skins for buildings and duplicates, and game settings. The thing with both Frosty Planet Pack and Prehistoric Planet Pack is that they follow the same formula. They add a new asteroid for you to play on with new problems to solve and a bunch of buildings and materials to supplement the lack of some materials on that asteroid. For example, the Prehistoric Planets challenge is the giant meteor coming your way that makes you rush things. The asteroid doesn't have coal, so they give you peat, which you can use exactly the same way. Shale replaces igneous rock, nickel ore replaces copper ore, amber and resin are a way to make plastic without venturing to oil biome. Iridium is the only new material that has superior qualities, increasing building overheat temperature by 500 degrees Celsius. These are just decorative buildings. Smoker is used to cook new foods, but those foods have lower quality than many base game foods. Ring rosebush replaces myrtle leaf, Snactus replaces muckroot, sweat corn replaces meal lice, tamed rexes are a replacement for reed fiber, and intracosmic blast shot is already available in Spaced Out, but is also used here to destroy the giant meteor that threatens your colony's survival. The rest of the plants and critters do have cool synergies, but their interactions with the content outside of the DLC are somewhat limited, though it is much better than the lack of meaningful synergies between the critters and plants from the Frosty Planet Pack DLC and the other parts of the game. The Frosty Planet Pack has cold as the challenge, and it makes sense that there wouldn't be any of the critters and materials available on its asteroid that don't jive well with the cold, so they introduce concessions. They give you a new duplicate trait, cold resistance. They give you a pile of wood at the start, a wood heater for your dupes to burn that wood and keep warm, a research portal that unlocks vital starter buildings, plants that make oxalite since you don't have any algae to produce oxygen otherwise, and buildings to distribute that oxalite, Idilla flowers that replace myrtle leaf, shareberries that replace muckroot, pike apple that replaces meal lice, an alternative method of making plastic through bonbon trees, and an alternative method of getting reed fiber through bamots, just like in the Prehistoric Pack, and a new story trait just for this asteroid, geothermal plant, to eventually heat up the planet and produce lots of power. They also give you snow and wood tiles, since those are the materials you'll have most in the starting biome, ice liquefier building to help you with the lack of water, new critters like floxes that you can shear for wood and that will eat pike apple bushes and excrete dirt, and bamots that can be sheared for reed fiber and that will eat plume squashes and excrete bamot patties that can be refined into phosphorite and clay, and spigot seals that produce ethanol and tallow that you convert into power and into food in the new deep fryer building, as well as in the good old microbe musher. The best food in the game, I'd argue, and I've made a video about this, check it out in the description. And just like the Prehistoric Pack, they add skins for your buildings and dupes. If you start the game on a different asteroid, you are unlikely to find a use case for all of these. That would be more convenient than the other options available in the game. They're more like a fun little backup, a side project. On my Terra playthrough, I have a special cold area here reserved for them. So, as you can see, most of the things that these DLCs add to the game, with some notable exceptions, are not very useful outside of their respective asteroids, but some of the other things that they add allow for more options to achieve the same thing. For example, there's now 4 ways to make plastic, it's 2 without DLCs, which allows you to have more freedom in your base building and can help make every run different somewhat. Other things that are fun, such as pemmican, which is simply overpowered if you have slime, or megafront plants which finally make chlorine useful, are all available for you if you choose to start on any asteroid. They add flavor to the game. You can see me farming and ranching plants and animals from all sorts of biomes. It's fun. There's 3 ways to achieve this. First is to get all these new plants and critters from the printing pod. The second is to click on Scramble DLCs in the world options and enable the respective biomes on your starting asteroid. And the third, if you're playing spaced out, is to replace the other asteroids on your star map with fragments of these DLC asteroids. This way, you can make one mega base that has everything from all corners of the ONI universe. Regardless of which asteroid you choose and which traits and biomes you enable, you will still have the same endgame objectives. So, what conclusions can we make from this? Do we want to enable these DLCs if we already have them? Yes, there is no harm. Do we want to buy these DLCs if we don't have them? Well, my answer would boil down to this. Yes, if you have mastered the base game / spaced out and want more of it. Yes, if you haven't finished the game yet but having more stuff in the game will make you enjoy it more and help you finish it. For example, if it sounds fun for you to make a zoo of all the critters in the game, including DLCs, and this pushes you to explore all the different mechanics in the game and to master them. Yes, if you love to play non-Terra asteroids and challenges like this excite you. No, if you think that these DLCs will make the game easier in the mid and late game, and no, if you are hoping for a completely different experience or more endgame content. It's more of the same. I think the best way to determine if you should buy a DLC is if you play the game and you look something up and find a solution that needs DLC, and you think, wow, that would be cool. Like, maybe you get really excited at the thought of having dinosaurs in your base, or maybe you just want to explore alternative methods of plastic production, or having to go through the hassle of growing bristleberries and sleet wheat to cook the never-spoiling berry sludge doesn't excite you, and you'd rather make pemmican that's 100 times easier to make. Then, sure, go ahead and get those DLCs. Otherwise, as I said, these DLCs are more of the same rather than some totally new experience. Can we extrapolate this answer to future DLCs? Well, it's likely that if you're watching this video months or years from now, there are more DLCs that follow the aforementioned formula. I have 1200 hours in the game, and to me, DLC planets feel kind of insular and lacking interactions with other parts of the game. They also only meaningfully change the early and the mid game, so another DLC that does more of the same will just not excite me. If a DLC does not add more endgame content or a new mechanic that revamps the gameplay, I will probably not be buying it. Although there already has been such a DLC that added a mechanic that left me with mixed feelings. I haven't talked about it yet, the Bionic Booster Pack. With this one you don't get a new planet. Instead you get Bionic duplicates that are powered by disposable metal power banks at first, which are a big pain since there is always a shortage of metal ore, so they are especially unsuited for asteroids that have even less metal ore than the Terra. You also have to consider if you are able to make lots of power in the early game to power your Bionic dupes. Do you have the necessary elements, vents, volcanoes? Do you know how to efficiently use all of them? If you don't know yet what kind of power sources there are on your asteroid, then maybe don't start a colony with 3 Bionic duplicates, you know? But even if you do have lots of hydrogen vents and natural gas geysers and are equipped with all the tools needed to get the most of them, you have to consider that you need lots and lots of power in the mid and late game and can't afford spending it on a large colony of Bionic dupes, unless you're playing on the Frosty Planet Pack asteroid. Also, Bionic dupes can't really run through water much, as they will get electric shocks, so if you're on a water asteroid or there's ice and snow that can melt, or you've played before and always wondered how come there's always water on your floors, that's something to also keep in mind and an extra thing to worry about. At the same time, the difference between Bionic duplicates and regular duplicates is that they will suck up oxygen in one big gulp every few cycles. This helps them work in low oxygen areas without having to run back up for oxygen. But I'd rather use the Atmosuits or remote robot workers for these tasks than maintain a Bionic dupe, which will not even level up over time like regular dupes. There are several things that this DLC adds to the game that can be useful, but are not necessary. One such thing is Echo Power Bank, which basically allows you to charge them and then send this power to other asteroids or to use in other places on your asteroid without using wires. There's also the Data Miner, which allows you to make data banks at your base without having to travel to space and use the Orbital Data Lab. If you don't know what data banks are for, these are a resource that your dupes gather either in space with a special building or in this DLC building back at home to use for a few things, most notably the advanced research. However, to get enough data banks to even research the data miner, you would still have to set up a rocket and go to space, at which point it's just a bit of added convenience afterwards. Apart from research, data banks are used to power the aforementioned remote workers and self-piloting rockets. Now, self-piloting rockets are the one thing that makes this DLC kind of worth it. You just supply some databanks and send the rocket on its way so you don't need a pilot or any life support. I love to use them. Just don't forget to enable return trip before launching them. But other than that, I think the fact I was so used to regular duplicants and all the ways to go around their limitations made it hard for me to find use cases for bionic dupes. I think to truly utilize both types of duplicants to their full potential, you'd have to buy the game with this DLC from the get-go and use both from the very start. If you've played the Bionic Booster Pack, let us know in the comments about your experience and whether you think new players should buy it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you'd like to see in the future DLCs. Do you agree that DLCs should add more content to the end game? And with this video nearing its end, I hope that you're now equipped with all the tools you need to finally play this great game. I know how hard this game can be, and I'm preparing a progression guide where I explain the game step by step, from what duplicants are best for starting out to how to reach endgame and not lose a single dupe. Once it's done, I'll put it here and in the pinned comment under the video. And if you've missed the first part of the series where I explained the differences between the base game and Spaced Out, as well as all the starting options, do check the video at the bottom. Thanks.